Have you ever rolled into a corner on a naked bike and felt that tiny, unwanted twitch in the chassis, the one that makes you wonder if your reflexes at this age can still catch the bike if something snaps loose for even a millisecond? And have you ever questioned whether your throttle hand, especially on long weekend rides, is still sharp enough to control a bike that's known for kicking back when you least expect it? Because let's be honest, as riders past 45, the instincts are still there, the passion is still there, the experience is stronger than ever, but the margin for error, that gets thinner every year. So the real question becomes, is there finally a middleweight naked that doesn't punish mature riders for wanting power, agility, and excitement, without the wobble, without the sudden throttle jerk, and without the fatigue that creeps into your forearms after just 45 minutes of aggressive riding? And that's exactly where the 2025 Yamaha MT-09 enters the conversation. Because for years, riders have loved the MT-09 for its raw, mischievous CP3 punch, but they've also feared it for the very same reason. It's been called unpredictable, twitchy, too wild around mid-corner bumps, and downright exhausting on longer rides when the stiff chassis and hyperactive throttle mapping start wearing you down. But now Yamaha claims they've redesigned the entire platform, new frame geometry, tweaked rigidity balance, revised KYB suspension tuning, better weight distribution, and an electronics package that supposedly thinks faster than your own reflexes. Which leads to a bigger, more unsettling question: did Yamaha finally tame the beast, or did they simply sharpen its claws and hand it back to you with a polite smile? And think about this. How many times have you exited a corner slightly wider than intended, not because you misjudged the line, but because the bike shifted its weight mid-lean and your body didn't respond the way it used to? How many times has the engine's punch surprised you just enough to spark a moment of doubt? That doubt is what Yamaha is trying to eliminate with the refinements in the 2025 model. The updated CP3 engine is smoother, the fueling is more progressive, the vibration is better controlled, and the electronics, especially the traction control and slide control, are supposedly so refined that they're designed to pick up the slack faster than your aging reaction speed possibly can. But the real curiosity, the one every mature rider secretly thinks about, is this: has Yamaha finally created an MT-09 that doesn't fight you, but works with you? A bike that turns effortlessly, holds a line like it's locked on rails, and gives you that addictive, playful throttle hit but without the old fear of being caught off guard when you're tired, cold, or simply not riding at your absolute best. Because the question lingering over this machine is bigger than specs or marketing claims. The question is the 2025 MT-09 the first model that feels less like a wild animal, and more like a precision-built extension of your aging but incredibly experienced riding instincts? Let's talk about the heart of the 2025 Yamaha MT-09, the upgraded 890 cubic centimeters CP3 engine, and why it matters specifically for riders who care about real-world confidence more than spec sheet flexing. Because here's the truth, raw power never scared the MT-09's audience, unpredictability did. That instant snap on the throttle, the surge that came a half-second earlier than expected, the mid-corner twitch when the road wasn't perfect, these were the moments that made riders wonder, is this bike working with me, or waiting to punish a tiny mistake? And that's exactly where the 2025 CP3 steps in with something shockingly unfamiliar for this lineup: smoothness. A new ECU tune, revised fuel mapping, and better airflow management make the throttle feel like an extension of your fingertips rather than an on-off switch. Yet just when you think Yamaha has turned the MT-09 into a polite gentleman, the engine reminds you who it really is, because the mid-range punch hits harder than ever, only now it's predictable. And this predictability becomes addictive, especially for riders who don't want to fight with their bike at every traffic light or exit ramp. The torque curve feels broader, flatter, more usable, almost as if Yamaha intentionally designed it for riders who want strength without surprises. But here's the hook that will keep you thinking: has Yamaha made the MT-09 too refined? The previous versions were notorious for their chaos. That raw, wild-child personality was the reason people loved them. So now the question becomes, is this still an MT-09, or has it evolved into something completely different? And this tension is exactly what keeps you curious. You twist the throttle expecting the old snappiness, and instead you get this velvet smooth surge that builds, and then suddenly reminds you that this is still an 890 cubic centimeters triple with a wicked sense of humor. On real roads, where most of us actually ride, the difference is enormous. Quick overtakes feel cleaner. Slow speed main. But here's the question every rider over 45 secretly asks the moment they swing a leg over a hypernaked like the MT-09. Will this thing stay planted when I truly need it to? Or will it betray me the moment the road gets unpredictable? Because no matter how experienced you are, there's always that whisper in the back of your mind: what if the front gets nervous again? What if mid-corner corrections feel risky? What if the bike reacts faster than your reflexes can catch? And that's exactly where Yamaha claims the revised frame, tightened rigidity balance, and reworked suspension step in, promising less wobble, more corner confidence, and a calmer, more predictable chassis at speed. But did they truly solve the MT-09's old twitchiness, or have they just hidden it beneath electronics and stiffer geometry? As you push it into a familiar corner, does the front end finally give you that older rider trust, the kind that lets you commit earlier and correct less, or does it still have that underlying wild streak waiting to reappear when you least expect it? The sharper steering angle raises adrenaline instantly, but the broader, more stable stance keeps whispering that maybe, finally, high-speed sweepers aren't something you manage, but something you enjoy again. Yet the real hook here is the tension between fear and temptation. Has Yamaha delivered a naked bike that respects aging reflexes without killing the excitement? Or is the new stability just confidence borrowed from electronics that disappear the second grip drops or wind hits? And as you roll on, a new question claws at you. Did Yamaha tame the beast, or did they just teach it to hide its teeth until the road turns rough? The answer isn't obvious, and that's what makes this MT-09 so dangerously intriguing. But here's the question every rider over 45 quietly asks themselves: what happens when your reflexes aren't as razor-sharp as they used to be? Because no matter how experienced you are, there's this moment on any naked bike where traffic suddenly tightens, the road gets damp, or someone pulls out of nowhere, and you wonder if the bike will save you, or betray you. And that's exactly where the 2025 Yamaha MT-09 steps forward with one of the most confidence-building electronic packages Yamaha has ever put on a middleweight. The full IMU-based suite now monitors lean, pitch, yaw, and acceleration in real time, giving you cornering ABS that doesn't just react, it predicts your next move and stabilizes the bike before things get sketchy. And if you've ever braked mid-corner and felt that split-second panic, is the front about to wash out? This is the kind of tech that wipes out that fear before it ever becomes a mistake. But the deeper question is, does all this tech actually help, or is it just digital babysitting for riders losing their edge? Then there's the traction control system, no longer a basic safety net, but a multi-layer system tuned through the IMU. It reads the surface, throttle position, wheel slip, and rider input with a precision that almost feels supernatural. Wet roundabouts, shiny cobblestones, gravel shoulders, the stuff that secretly scares even the most seasoned riders, the MT-09 smooths out those "oh no" moments into quiet non-events. And yet Yamaha didn't neuter the fun. You still get wheel lift, you still get punch, but now wheelie control manages it with a level of finesse that feels less like restriction and more like stability, almost like the bike is telling you, push harder. I've got you. Hook after hook, the electronics keep pulling your attention back in, because every rider over 45 knows how fast fatigue can cause sloppy inputs or delayed reactions, and this package seems engineered specifically to counter those moments. But here's the twist, with the new quick-shifter improvements, smoother, faster, smarter, some riders are already asking whether the MT-09 is becoming too refined, too civilized, too polished for the rowdy reputation that made it a legend. Is Yamaha dialing out the chaos, or finally unlocking the speed that older riders could never fully access because the old chassis and electronics were just too wild? And when you combine the precise ride modes, the adaptive throttle maps, and stability algorithms that almost feel race-derived, a new fear emerges. Will this bike make you overconfident? Because the more you trust it, the harder you'll push, especially when the electronics make you feel like you're riding at your peak even on the days when your concentration isn't. That paradox, fear, security, control, power, creates this electric tension around the 2025 MT-09's electronics suite. Is it simply a safety net for aging riders, or is it a performance enhancer finally letting mature riders tap into all 890 cubic centimeters of that CP3 fury without paying for mistakes the hard way? Have you ever wondered if a naked bike like the MT-09 can still feel comfortable once you cross the 45-year mark and start noticing how your back reacts to every bump, how your wrists complain during slow traffic, or how long rides suddenly feel twice as long as they used to? And as you look at the 2025 redesign, you can't help but ask, did Yamaha really rethink the ergonomics for riders who want performance and practical comfort, or did they just change the handlebar angle and hope you wouldn't notice? Because comfort isn't just about plushness, it's about how a bike treats your body when fatigue creeps in, when the cold sets into your joints, when your posture determines whether the ride becomes a joy or a chore. And that's where the new MT-09 becomes surprisingly interesting. The revised handlebar position sits slightly lower and closer, giving you more assertive control without forcing your wrists into that strained, lean and suffer angle that older naked bikes often punish you with. But here's the part that might actually surprise you. Yamaha subtly reshaped the seat foam and narrowed the front portion, not just for aesthetics, but to keep your hips aligned and reduce that creeping lower back tension that usually starts after 30 minutes on a typical street fighter. Yet the real question is, will these changes actually keep your spine happier on long motorway runs, or will you still shift around trying to escape pressure points after an hour? The MT-09 tempts you with just enough support to feel planted, yet enough room to move without locking you into one posture, and that balance alone feels like Yamaha finally listened to riders who aren't trying to fold themselves like a 25-year-old gymnast on every ride. And if you've ever battled with vibration buzzing through your hands, or worse, numbing your fingers mid-ride, the 2025 refinements might ease a few worries. Updated engine mounts and a smoother CP3 firing feel noticeably calmer at cruising speeds, reducing that constant hum that can turn long rides into endurance tests for your wrists and elbows. But the hooks don't stop there, because wind protection, or the lack of it, has always been a silent deal-breaker for aging riders on naked bikes. So now the question becomes, can the new sculpted tank and minimal headlight cowl actually deflect enough air to keep your chest from getting blasted at highway speeds, or is it still a battle against the wind every time you push past 70 miles per hour? Yamaha claims improved airflow management, and while it won't match a sport tourer, it does redirect turbulence better than older MT generations, giving you just enough relief to reduce fatigue without sacrificing that stripped-down naked bike feel. And when you combine all this with the slightly revised foot peg placement that avoids knee cramping and keeps your legs in a neutral, less stressful angle, the MT-09 starts to look less like the rowdy street brawler it used to be, and more like a machine that understands the realities of real riders with real bodies and real comfort needs. The only lingering question, the one Yamaha wants you to ask, is whether this new comfort-focused refinement means the MT-09 has softened too much, or whether it has finally become the everyday, livable, long-ride-friendly weapon riders have always hoped it could be. But here's the real question every rider over 45 has been secretly thinking ever since Yamaha revealed this redesigned MT-09. Is this finally the middleweight naked that delivers the adrenaline hit you crave without the physical punishment you've spent years trying to avoid? Or is it just another bike pretending to be friendly, while hiding a few surprises waiting to bite you at the wrong moment? Because you know the pattern, manufacturers promise refinement, stability, comfort, smoother power, better electronics, more predictable chassis behavior, yet out on the road, the truth shows up fast. The mid-corner twitch you didn't expect, the throttle surge you didn't ask for, the braking moment where your heart rate hits triple digits, or the fatigue creeping into your wrists, your back, your concentration. And that's why this new MT-09 raises such a brutally honest curiosity. Has Yamaha genuinely engineered a machine that lets older riders stay fast, stay sharp, and stay in control, without relying on youth, reflexes, or recovery times you no longer want to fight for? Or is it simply a softened version of a bike that used to be wild, raw, and unforgettable? Because the big fear isn't whether the MT-09 is powerful enough, you already know it is. The real fear is whether it's trustworthy enough to push hard without punishing you, and whether that trust lasts not just on smooth roads, but on rough pavement, fast sweepers, rain-slicked commutes, and the long days when fatigue builds and mistakes cost more than they used to. Yet beneath that fear lurks excitement, the temptation that maybe, just maybe, this is the first MT-09 that actually grows with you instead of demanding that you keep up with it. Maybe this is the bike that keeps the fire lit, keeps the grin wide, keeps the spirit young, without requiring you to ride like you're still 25 just to stay in sync with it. And that leads to the biggest curiosity hook of all. Is the 2025 MT-09 the sweet spot of modern riding, powerful enough to thrill, refined enough to trust, and comfortable enough to live with, making it the ultimate choice for riders who refuse to slow down but refuse to suffer, too? If you want to know whether it truly outperforms its rivals, whether it offers better real-world livability than the KTM 890 Duke, whether it has more confidence-inspiring manners than the Triumph Street Triple, or whether it finally fixes the flaws you always wished Yamaha would fix, then don't stop here. Dive into the next breakdown, explore the spec comparisons, listen to the owner feedback, and follow the deeper tests we have coming next. Because the only way to know if the MT-09 is the next chapter in your riding life, or just an interesting moment on the journey, is to stay tuned, keep exploring, and decide whether this machine is the one that keeps you riding stronger, smarter, and longer than ever before. So hit the next video, check the full comparisons, and let's find out together whether the 2025 MT-09 is the bike that finally gives riders over 45 the perfect balance of thrill and control.